Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a concept that has literally revolutionized modern manufacturing and operations. But before we jump in, I want you to completely rethink what you might already know about lean manufacturing. We so often picture lean as this super rigid set of rules, right? Just a strict top-down methodology for cutting costs. But honestly, it's not. Lean is an active, living, ongoing process of revealing perfection, and it runs on this incredible dual engine. You've got the mechanical efficiency of effective fundamental tools on one side, and the absolute human power of targeted, continuous training on the other.
Let's think about it like this. Michelangelo once said, "Every block of stone has a statue inside it, and it is the task of the sculptor to release it." Now, sure, he was talking about Renaissance art, but this is actually the perfect metaphor for Taiichi Ohno's industrial philosophy. Ohno, who's basically the father of the Toyota production system, believed that the ideal, hyper-efficient process is already sitting right there on your shop floor. It's hiding in plain sight. So your job as a lean practitioner, you're the sculptor. You're methodically chiseling away all that manufacturing waste to reveal the perfect, beautiful flow hiding underneath.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the hidden costs of waste, fundamental lean tools, the daily management system, the eighth waste, which is unused talent, training the lean team, and finally, sustaining continuous improvement. Let's get into it.
First things first, we really have to pin down what lean actually is at its core. Basically, it is the systematic methodology for continuous improvement achieved through the relentless elimination of waste to maximize customer value. It all boils down to asking one ridiculously simple question. What does the customer actually value, and what are they willing to pay for? Once you figure out exactly what that value is, you just methodically strip away absolutely everything else in your process. Literally, if an activity doesn't add direct value to the final product, it's waste.
Now, to actually spot that waste, let's use a super handy acronym, TIM Woods. Think of these as the hidden inefficiencies just lurking on your shop floor. We've got transportation, which is moving things unnecessarily, inventory, excess materials that are just tying up your cash, motion, workers having to walk back and forth, waiting, that frustrating idle time between steps, overproduction, making way more than the customer actually ordered, overprocessing, doing more work to a part than is strictly required, defects, errors that force you to do rework, and finally, skills, which is a massive one we're going to dive really deep into in just a bit. What's genuinely fascinating here is the sheer scale of the opportunity we're talking about. To put this into perspective, McKinsey data shows that when companies combine lean practices with digital technologies, they are routinely seeing a massive 15 to 30% improvement in labor productivity. I mean, wow. And the best part? This is absolutely not about working people harder. It is entirely about removing the friction and the waste from their day so they can naturally produce more value with way less effort. Section 2, Fundamental Lean Tools, or as we like to call it, handing the sculptor a chisel.
Probably the most foundational tool you'll encounter is the 5S methodology. The steps are straightforward. Sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. But please, do not mistake this for just a glorified housekeeping exercise. By organizing the workspace, making sure tools are exactly where they need to be, and standardizing the whole setup, you directly eliminate that waste of excess motion we talked about. Plus, you drastically reduce the chance of defects. When you have a clean, highly ordered environment, any abnormalities just instantly stick out like a sore thumb. Now, a real game changer is how work actually flows. Think about a traditional push system. You're producing to a forecast, right? You're just pushing products down the line, whether the next station is ready for them or not. And guess what? That leads to massive overproduction and completely unmanageable inventory waste. Lean flips this entirely on its head with a pull system. By using visual signals called Kanban, which could just be a card or an empty bin, the downstream process signals its actual demand to the upstream process. So you end up producing exactly what is needed, precisely when it's needed. Another incredibly powerful tool in your toolkit is value stream mapping, or VSM. Here's the truth. You simply cannot fix what you cannot see. VSM lets teams visually map out the entire flow of materials and information, literally from raw material right into the customer's hands. By charting out all those wait times and processing times, bottlenecks and non-value adding steps become glaringly obvious. They become completely impossible to hide. Moving right along to Section 4, the eighth waste, which is unused talent. I want you to really think about this for a second. Why do so many lean implementations just completely collapse?
A company brings in expensive consultants, they meticulously map the value streams, they put up all the Kanban boards, they do the whole 5S sorting thing, and yet, a year later, everything has just reverted back to the old wasteful ways. Why does that happen?
Well, based on comprehensive research into the actual barriers of lean implementation, the main obstacles aren't technical at all. The tools absolutely work. The real failure points involve human attitudinal issues. We're talking about a lack of organizational culture, really poor leadership, and an urgent, critical lack of training. You can't just hand someone a chisel and magically expect a masterpiece, right? You actually have to train them how to sculpt.
Which brings us right back to that S in our Tim Woods acronym. The eighth waste is unused human potential. The absolute greatest waste on any factory floor isn't scrap metal or excess inventory. Not even close. It is the untapped knowledge, the creativity, and the cognitive readiness of your frontline workers. When leaders just dictate every single action without ever asking for input, they are literally throwing away the biggest problem-solving asset they have. Section 5. Training the Lean Team. Let's talk about upskilling our sculptor.
A truly successful lean organization structures its training to create a solid system of governance, complete with crystal clearly defined roles. You've got your black belts acting as change agents, really driving that culture forward. Then you have your green belts acting as improvement experts. They're the ones leading cross-functional teams and analyzing processes. And crucially, you have your team members out there trained as field observers to target those daily opportunities. This kind of structured upskilling is brilliant because it keeps the ownership of the process exactly where it belongs, right with the people actually doing the work.
Okay, so what exactly are we training them in? Well, it's a really specific mix of hard and soft skills. First, employees need to be trained in cross-functional collaboration to break down those stubborn corporate silos. They also need a deep, practical understanding of the PDCA, that's the Plan, Do, Check, Act, problem-solving cycle. On top of that, they need cognitive readiness to handle nonstop technological change, and of course, they need to know exactly how to execute standardized work and properly utilize visual management boards. Master these skills, and your team can actively participate in Kaizen, that beautiful philosophy of continuous incremental improvement.
If you look at a true lean culture, they utilize powerful frameworks like Toyota Kata and Hoshinkanri. In these environments, every single leader is a coach. Hoshinkanri is all about aligning the company's big, long-term strategic goals with everyday operations. But it's the Kata, those daily practice routines of coaching at the front line, that actually teaches employees the specific thinking patterns they need to experiment, solve problems, and move toward those big goals. It's really not about just giving orders. It's about fundamentally teaching your people how to think. And honestly, the need for this kind of training is pretty stark. Studies show that a staggering 87% of small and medium manufacturing enterprises actively need to train their workforce if they want to successfully implement and even survive a lean transition. 87%. Without this serious investment in human capital, all those amazing lean tools we talked about, they just become annoying administrative burdens that eventually fall apart.
Finally, how do we make it stick? To lock in both the tools and the training, you absolutely need a daily management system. This is what sustains continuous improvement over the long haul. It involves leader standard work, where managers are consistently out there supporting their teams. It requires Gemba walks, where leaders physically walk the shop floor to observe processes firsthand and show respect to the workers. And it heavily relies on short daily accountability meetings, often called SIMs. This whole infrastructure guarantees that our dual engine keeps running smoothly, day in and day out. So, I'll leave you with this. Take a good, hard look at your own shop floor, your own office, your own processes. What human potential is sitting right there, completely untrained and just waiting to be utilized? Remember, lean is all about eliminating waste, and the absolute greatest tragedy is a wasted mind. Your workforce isn't just a line item on a budget or labor cost. They are the ultimate sculptors. Equip them with the fundamental tools, invest heavily in their training, and just watch them release the absolute masterpiece hiding within your operations. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.